Oh, hello YouTube. Today on the Naughty Librarian, I'm going over my mid-August wrap-up. So yeah, this video's late. I was supposed to come out the previous week. It did not. I didn't feel good. I was just having allergies and I just felt generally yucky, so I just didn't film it. So that's on me. But hey, you know what? Here it is. Here it is now. The first half of August, I read 5 books, which I think is pretty good. I kind of went on a bender with like historical romances. Like that's something new here, but that's kind of where I was. And I read a couple other things, and overall, I've been having a good time. Like I didn't really read anything that I disliked. It's been a good month so far. Anyway, let's just get to reviewing some stuff. We're just gonna dive right on in. First category is drunk classics, and I read Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie, and I very much enjoyed it actually. And I know the video for this isn't quite out yet. It will be out, I believe, very soon. But here's a quick review prior to the Drunk Classics episode coming out. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good twisty-turny mystery. Secretly, it might be a rom-com. You're gonna have to watch my Drunk Classics to get the full scoop on that. But yeah, it is surprisingly has a lot of rom-com elements in it that I was really enjoying. I was rooting for her. So it's Agatha Christie. It's a good what is it, like closed circle mystery where they're all in like one location, so it has to be one of these people is the killer and they're all like limited group of suspects type of thing. And it's fun. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Hercule Poirot is being a judgmental bastard. That's his favorite game to play, so he's doing that and doing the best. But yeah, it's fun. I had a good time with it. Next category is sci-fi, and I read one of them. I read Upgrade by Blake Crouch. I know Blake Crouch has written like a lot of really good sci-fi books. I just hadn't read any before. So I randomly picked up this one. This is his latest release, and I was like, all right, this is what I'm reading. I'm doing it. I'm going to try him out finally. And you know what? I very much enjoyed this. As I was reading it, I kept thinking like, wow, this is written so cinematically. Like it's written like with like camera direction. Like you could obviously see exactly how they would shoot it if it was a movie. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then I read the author blurb and I was like, oh, he's a screenwriter. That makes a lot of sense. But basically we're following this guy named Logan, and he is kind of, just like a working guy. He works like for the government, and basically this is like a different world maybe in the future with future tech where people can hack genetics and upgrade things in their body or I don't know, change things to their liking, but it's a slippery slope and things go wrong more often than they go right, so it's illegal. And he kind of works for this government agency that shuts that down when he hears like there's like an underground ring of it right here. It's kind of like, I don't know, it feels like DEA but for like genetics. And Logan works for them, and he basically gets caught in an explosion one day and wakes up with a hacked genome. Basically there was little things in the fragments that got into his bloodstream, and now he is changing a little bit. He's kind of smarter, faster, stronger. His brain is changing. The way he perceives time is changing. So something has happened to his genome. He's been hacked. And then, he has to fight the bad guys and stop this from happening to the world, because I think the people who did this to him want to spread this virus to the rest of the world and hack their genomes. But obviously he's like, this is not a good idea. So he kind of has to fight off bad guys and have complex, I don't know, existential crises about his own humanity, because he's not really on the same wavelength as humanity anymore. And he's like a scientist, and he's like basically like scientist cop. So it's kind of really fun to read, and the way it's written, it's so cinematic. You can obviously just picture this as a film with explosions and chase scenes and like gunfights, and it's very action-packed, and you can very much picture it as a movie. It sounds really, really fun and cool, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I gave it like 5 stars. Why not? It was like a really fun time reading it. It was my first Blake Crouch. It makes me want to go back and read the other books by Blake Crouch and see like how they compare. If they're all like this cinematic quality, I think I'm going to enjoy them. But yeah, it's like a good, fun thriller. standalone. You could just like probably read it in a day or two. It's like a nice fun ride. Last category is historical romance, and I read 3 of them. So the historical romances I read, some were better than others. Like one of them was insanely good, and the other 2 were like, like, I get why people would like them. I don't think there's anything particularly bad with these books. They're just not like my vibe. So like, I wasn't really connecting with them, but I get why they're good. But hey, you know what? I like to start things off on the good side. So let's start off with my favorite like historical romance I read this month. And that was, boom, Nobody's Princess by Erica Ridley. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. I loved it. It's so good. If you guys haven't been reading this like Winchester series by Erica Ridley, what have you been doing? This is book 3 of the series. It's like a group of misfit siblings who were all adopted. So they all are very different, but they all kind of have like a little bit of like light criminal activity. Basically, they kind of, they're known around town as people who solve problems for you. So like if you have, I don't know, like a landlord who's trying to defraud you or something, go to the Winchesters and they'll help. They're kind of, you know, do-gooders type of thing. And this one we're following Graham in particular. And Graham, he is like, I don't know, he's just kind of foxy in the book. Like, I'll explain. So he's basically, he was like born into like a circus performer family before he was adopted. So he's really good at like gymnastics. So think like Regency era parkour, like just breaches climbing a building. Like, I don't know why the visual does it for me, but like it does. And also he's kind of like, has stepped up to become the leader of the Winchesters. And he also has this weird thing about him where he's just like, do you know, like, I am going to rescue a princess one day. Like, this is my thing. I am full on selling knight in shining armor fantasy. Who's buying? Like, that's his whole vibe. And I'm like into it. He has such a weird kink. He just wants to save a princess. So enter Cooney. Cooney is traveling to England from this like fictional European country, and she wants to be a guardswoman for the Princess of Belgravia. And so she's kind of undercover, going around the city, like doing like security testing and stuff. And she comes across Graham, and Graham's like, oh my gosh, are you a princess? You're a princess. Are you a princess? Like, I am here to rescue you. And she's like, no thanks, I don't need rescuing. And he's like, you don't? And she's like, no. And he's like, that's hot. So they get along really well. And she kind of, you know, the Winchesters are always so like fun and quirky, and they all have weird personalities. Like, there's a lot of weird heists and capers in here that are just elaborate and bizarre in the best way possible. Like, slightest of spoilers, perhaps they break into a zoo and steal some animals, you know? Like, it's like a whole thing. Wacky, zany capers, which is completely a underrated virtue when it comes to rom-coms. And I also really just liked all the characters. I was rooting for them to be together. It's a little maybe predictable, I'll say, because like obviously they're gonna be together. Like she maybe laid it on a little thick with the like obviously they're gonna be together. Like the obvious like turn of events in the end was a little heavy-handed, but like, did I mind that? No, I wanted it to happen. So it was one of those. However, I will say, if you don't really like something that's super smutty, like this might be the book for you, because it's really actually not smutty. There's like, I think one scene, and it's like 80% of the way through the book. And like for me, who's a big ass perv, like I didn't mind because I was having so much fun with the characters and like the heists and the capers that they were getting into. Like so many capers, elaborate disguises, and like multi like step like plans to get these things done. I love it. So like for that alone, it's so fun and it's funny, and it's, you know, it could have been smuttier personally, but like whatever. I didn't mind that there wasn't any smut because I was enjoying everything else. So 5 stars, fully love this series. Please check it out. All right, we're gonna move on to these mediocre books. So I read Her Night with the Duke by Diana Quincy. And in the end, I gave it like 3 stars. It's fine, I think. If you really like a good, like, angsty, slow burn romance, like, this might be the one for you. And I get why it's good. It's just, like, not my personal taste. But it has a lot of cool things going for it. Like I said, tons of angst, like all of the pining and angst you could ever want, basically, in this book. Also, our lead heroine is Arabian. I don't know if other books exist with that trope, but like I personally hadn't seen an Arabian heroine in a Regency era historical romance before, so I thought that was really, really cool. All right, so here's like the gist. You have Delilah and Elliot, right? They kind of meet at like an inn on a night, and they end up hooking up. They spend the night together. And they're gonna go their separate ways. Whoopsie daisy, turns out they ended up going the same way. They're at the same house party. They're both in the nobility. He's actually supposed to be affianced to her stepdaughter. Dun dun dun. That's awkward. It's even also awkward that it's her stepdaughter because they're only like 9 years apart in age. She's not that much older than her. So the father married her when she was like 17 and the kid was like 9. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like they're more sisterly, even though she's technically the stepmother. It's like a weird vibe. But anyway, that's just so awkward because he's supposed to be like dating her daughter and she's like, oh no. Like when she finds out about it, like she literally barfs. Like it's like a lot. And then they just spend so much time in this book pining and being angsty and like not being able to sleep at night because they're just so racked with like what happened between them and they want it to happen again, but like they can't. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this could just be cleaned up with like a conversation. Like, you know, it is Regency era. You're not supposed to be boning around town apparently, but like she's a widow. It's not like, you know, she's not holding her virtue for someone. She was in her rights to do that, and he was in his rights to do that. I don't really think the daughter would have cared. She's like, she wasn't into him either. Like just say like, hey, we like each other, we're gonna get together. Like no one would have been upset. Like I mean, people would have been upset because like there's other extenuating circumstances in just like who these people are, but like for the main people that would have been affected, like it would have been fine. Like I don't know why there was so much drama here. It's stupid. So yeah, for me, like I get it. I get why people like it and I get why it's good. It's just personally, it's just like, ugh, like I'm so angsty. Oh my gosh. It's just, it had no joy, and I want fun, zany rom-coms, and this had no joy for me, so it's fine. My other kind of meh book was Always Be My Duchess by Emily Howard. I was so bummed out about this when I pre-ordered it. Like, I was so excited. This is supposed to be like a Victorian era Pretty Woman inspired story. So I was like, yes, love that. Pre-ordered the shit out of this. And like it is that, but not really. And it's, okay, I'll explain. So we have this woman named Neve, right? Or Genevieve. And she is a prima ballerina. And she said no to someone in the nobility. I don't want to be your mistress. And so like he's basically tanked her career. So now she's out in the streets. She has a sister who needs medical help. She's trying to get a job somewhere. She doesn't know what she's going to do. And enter Lysander. He's a duke. He's in maybe the shadier part of town one evening, a little drunk, and he's lost. And then ruffians come by. She ends up kind of saving him from the ruffians. And he's like, hey, hear me out. I have a good idea. Basically, Lysander has this business deal he really wants to go through. However, because he's been seen as such like a ruthless businessman who's cold, he doesn't have like a love life, he doesn't have like family stuff, the business deal might not go through just off of personality. So he's like, listen, why don't you be my fake fiance so people think I have a warm, cuddly side, and then like I'll give you like an ass ton of money, and then like you could do whatever you want, and like you don't have to bone me. Like it's like not a bad deal. And she ends up taking him up on it, and you know, so they fake date. And it has a lot of interesting things going on here. Like, I think Lysander, they don't have the words for that in this era, but he's obviously on the spectrum with how he like thinks about things and relates to people in the world. He just doesn't always understand social situations. So it makes sense that he's on the spectrum. They don't have the language for it. So it's never really like said in the book, but like, I feel like it's obvious. And Genevieve, she's a ballerina, you know, not a sex worker like in Pretty Woman, but it's a similar proposal, I guess. And here's the thing, like I thought this was going to be kind of more rom-com, funny, maybe some zaniness, like misunderstandings and capers. And it was a lot of angst, and I didn't want as much angst as I got. It felt like every other chapter they were having like a disagreement or a misunderstanding, and she would be super pissed at him for something where she thinks he's being insensitive, but it's just like he obviously does not understand. Like, if it keeps happening, just say why you're upset. He doesn't understand what he's doing. Talk. Oh my God. Like, you have nothing to lose. You're fake dating this guy. Just say, hey, you're being an asshole and this is why. And he'd be like, oh, I won't be an asshole anymore. Problem solved. And it's just bleh. So it got a little frustrating for me that like she didn't seem to have a lot of patience. But the other side of that is like, you know, they don't have the language for, you know, being on the spectrum in this era. She doesn't understand why he doesn't understand that. So they both just needed to have a conversation with each other. And I don't know, I get why people like it. It just wasn't for me because it's so angsty and so many misunderstandings that like could have been avoided easily. And I don't know, I gave it like 3 stars in the end. I think it does have a good like romantic gesture moment in the end. So that was kind of like big romantic gesture, which I enjoyed. So that's fun. I liked some of the side characters in here quite a bit, but like, I wasn't like crazy about it. It's fine, I guess. Okay, so that was it for the first half of August. I read 5 books, and you know what? None of them were bad. I think some of them I liked more than others, but none of them really were like bad. Like, I was super disappointed in it. They were at least fine, you know what I mean? So whatever, I'm calling it a win. I think I'm doing well so far this month. Let me know in the comments down below, what was a book you were really excited about, but then when you read it, you're like, oh, this didn't really live up to expectations. Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And hey, if you want cool exclusive content, including a book club, you can consider becoming a channel member or a patron. The links for that are in the description down below. And on that note, I will see you guys soon. Bye.